Good evening and welcome to the March 6, 2025 meeting of the Whitestown Board of Zoning Appeals. If we could, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if we could have the roll call of members, please.
Mr. Snowberger.
Here.
Mr. McGee.
Here.
Mr. Kingshill.
Here.
Ms. Shaz.
Here.
Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Let the record reflect that all members are present.
Thank you. Going on to the minutes from our January 9th, 2025 meeting. We have the minutes in front of us from that meeting. We've had an opportunity to review them. Are there any questions or comments regarding the minutes? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the January 9th meeting minutes.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve by Mr. McGee, by Mr. Snowberger, second by Mr. McGee. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. The minutes are approved. Moving on to approval of the agenda. I think maybe we have a motion to amend the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve items A, B, C, and D.
Wait, motion to approve. No,
Sorry.
Motion to approve.
Motion.
It's a little early.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's been a long day. I will make a motion to combine items A, B, C, and D under new business for one presentation, but four separate motions.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. We've got a motion by Mr. Snowberger, second by Mr. McGee, to combine items 6A, B, C, and D into one presentation and one public hearing, but we'll have separate motions. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you. We have how about now a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Thank you. You got a motion to approve the agenda by Mr. McGee, second by Mr. Snowberger. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Moving on to public requests to speak on items, on topics not related to the agenda. Do we have anyone online that wishes to speak?
No one online has requested to speak on this.
Thank you. And I do not have any written requests, so we will move on to presentations. It looks like we have none. We're on to old business. That also looks like we have none. So that takes us right to new business. And we have item BZA 25-001-SE, also BZA 25-002-DSV, BZA 25-003-DSV, BZA 25-004-DSV, all Kroger fueling station. Let's first start with some comments by staff, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I'm going to start with BZA 25-001-SE. I'm going to skip the BZA 2025-00-DSV for the last part of the discussion while I discuss BZA 25-003 and 004, because those are more closely related.
Okay.
So for BZA 25-001-SE, this is a special exception request from UDO 11.13 to allow for a service station local in the general business district. This is at 6380 Center Drive. The acreage of the site is 1.24 acres. The current zoning is general business, and the surrounding zoning, so to the north is general business, to the east is general business. Those are both within the town of Whitestown. The south and west is rural general business, and those are both within the town of Zionsville. First, what I would like to draw the board's attention to is the site history. In staff research, there was a BZA case in 2018, BZA 18-005-SE, which was another special exception. And this special exception in 2018 was actually to convert the site from a gas station into the Big O Tire facility that it is today. So staff believes that that sets precedence for it being a gas station. And
Was it zoned for a gas station previously, or?
so it was a special exception in 2018 to convert it to a general store. So our current ordinance was updated in 2022, to the best of staff's knowledge, right? There was a change at that point in time that required a special exception for a gas station local. That's the best that we can assume in terms of how that change happened.
Okay.
So in terms of the special exception, I'll draw your attention to section 2.4. This is the use table in UDO Chapter 2, and you can see there service station local in the general business district is permitted by special exception. So based on that, staff believes that they are meeting all 7 of the criteria for a special exception, and staff recommends approval of that special exception. Carrying on to BZA 25-003 and BZA 25-004, both development standards from the I-65 Corridor Overlay District. So 003 is a request for a reduction in the building square footage requirements. BZA 25-004 is a reduction in the height requirements. If the board is familiar with Kroger developments, right, they typically have a grocery store, they typically have a fueling center. And although in this case, the fueling center is a separate lot from the grocery store, and in fact, separate zoning jurisdictions, because the grocery store would actually be in Zionsville and the fueling center in the town of Whitestown. The fueling center acts more as an accessory structure to the main grocery store. And so the reduction in the height, the reduction in the square footage, staff believes is warranted based on the fact that, even though, right, it's a separate lot, it's a primary parcel on that separate lot, it serves as an accessory structure to the main grocery store. So staff is recommending approval on both the size reduction and the height reduction.
So the size and the height basically in the 65 overlay are for primary structures as opposed to accessory structures.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But in this situation, staff believes that, right, it serves more as an accessory structure than a primary structure. So moving on to BZA 25-002 DSV. This is a request for an increase in the fueling canopy signage. The request is to go from 12 square feet to 30 square feet. I will direct you to the Unified Development Ordinance, Section 8.9, permanent sign types, which kind of outlines what the standards are. So you are allowed 2 signs. They are requesting 2 signs. They're requesting an increase from 12 square feet to the 30 square feet. This is primarily for visibility, both from the storefront and from Whitestown Parkway. I'll just refer to their sign package. They will also have a monument sign on Whitestown Parkway with the fuel stickers. And then they are redoing the faceplates on the tower sign that currently exists for Big O tires. So again, kind of based on visibility, based on the fact that they're allowed 2 signs, staff is recommending approval. We believe that they have met the 3 criteria for a development standard variance.
Are you done?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Okay, do we have a petitioner here to maybe give us a presentation?
Good evening. I think it's on. My name is Ann McBride. My address is 5721 Dragon Way, Suite 300, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45227. First of all, I want to thank Mr. McGee for consolidating all these cases, because we're going to drive home to Cincinnati tonight, so thank you for that. Your staff has presented basically everything that I spent the morning preparing to discuss with you. So I'm just going to go through some highlights for the board so you understand what Kroger is proposing to do. As was indicated, Kroger is proposing to build a 118,337 square foot marketplace store just across Center Drive in the city of Zionsville. And that site is zoned, and we, in fact, were before their Board of Zoning Appeals last night and received approval of the variances that we needed there, which were 2. But as a part of the Kroger development, they typically construct a fuel center, and this one is going to be north of the store, as you've heard, in Whitestown on a separate parcel, because simply it didn't fit with the configuration of the existing property lots. As you've heard, it is on the former Big O parcel, so it's going to include the demolition of existing vacant building, which we think is an improvement for the community. It is zoned GB, and so the fuel center would be a special exception, which we are asking for favorable consideration from the board. The fuel center itself would have 7 fuel islands, which would be a total of 14 dispensers. You know, you can pump on either side, obviously. It would have a 277 square foot kiosk, which would have a Kroger associate in it. It's proposed to have basically kind of 3 access points, a right in, right out near the corner where there may be a roundabout, a full access point in order to get the fuel tanker in to the east, and then there's a shared access drive that we have maintained with the Taco Bell to the east as well. So we have been working with your town engineer on traffic access and so forth, submitted an impact analysis, and I think that has been approved. Most of the trips, I wanted to make the board aware, most of the trips that are, I'll say more than half, I won't say most, of the trips that are at a Kroger Fuel Center are associated with a trip to the Kroger store, and that's why it's so important to have the fuel pricers on the backside of the canopy, because the last thing when you check out is that the associate says to you, you have 350 fuel points, right? So you come out, you see how much the fuel is, and you head to the fuel center. A lot of people do it in reverse because they don't like their ice cream to melt. That would be me. But at any rate, my point is that the trips to the fuel center are very oftentimes tagged with a trip to the store, so it's not necessarily a new trip coming into the center. See here, because I got to flip through my notes here because Alan covered most of my stuff. The proposal that is before this board and also was before Zionsville is a $35 million investment into the community by Kroger. There will be 350 approximately new associates hired as a part of this. So it's going to be a big employment boost, we think, to both of the communities. I guess staff covered everything. I guess maybe I'll leave it if you had questions for us. And I'm sorry, I should have said, there are representatives of Kroger here this evening, as well as their civil engineers, in case I can't answer the questions.
So you were mentioning the signs being on the backside facing the people as they're coming out of the Kroger. Is it only going to be on that north side, or are there also going to be signs on the opposite side?
The fuel pricers, right, will be on the Whitestown Parkway side, on the north side, and then on the south side of the canopy, which is the side that you'd see coming out of the store, as well as on the monument sign. Because everybody buys gas based on price. It's all the same gas, apparently, so.
And what's the phasing on this build? My concern is that the fuel center not be built before the store itself, just in case something happens and the store doesn't happen, and we have the fuel center and no store. So the question is the store going to get built and then the fuel center, or are they going to be built concurrently? What's the timing going to be on that?
Yeah, I mean, they typically are built concurrently. However, the store obviously takes a lot longer to build, and right now, they're still going through, it's very difficult for them to get switchgear and so forth to construct the store. So there are times where the store is under construction, but the fuel center will open first. But the store is under construction. It's not like it's a dirt pad that never happened, if that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else with questions?
Chair, are we going to open the public hearing?
I will after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I have a question. The signs for the back towards the store, is the store going to be blocking those lights from the neighborhood that's directly behind it?
Is the store, I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand.
The pricing that's going to be on the backside of the gas station, would the grocery store be blocking that light from the neighbors that are behind the grocery store?
Yeah, and in fact, we've done a photometric lighting plan for the store and for the fuel center as well that we submitted to you all. But the plan that was submitted to Zionsville met all of their code requirements. To answer your question, yes, the store would block anything off the sign, but we've been very careful in designing this site. The store is set back much further. I mean, I realize this is Zionsville and it's not Whitestown's concern per se. But at any rate, the store sets back 65 feet where a maximum of 40 feet is required. They've increased the number of non-deciduous trees along the back over what's required. They've got all of the LED lights shielded coming down in the back. So really try to be a good neighbor, which Kroger does on all of their sites.
Is that going to be an issue while you're still building the grocery store, though? Because if the gas station's going to open earlier, you're going to have those lights on.
The store, I would suspect, is going to be way up before, it's just not going to be open. And if I could just add one additional comment to that, there's also existing heavy wooded area between, there's a non-developed right-of-way to the rear of those residents, which is also to the rear of the, kind of goes between the residential and the Kroger. And that's, I'm not going to say heavily wooded, but thickly wooded. And that's going to all remain. So that also would be a buffer for that.
Question about the canopy signage. So the monument sign is going to be up along Whitestown Parkway and have visual sign with the pricing. You're going to have canopy signage on the north and the south side of the canopy, right?
Yes, that's what we're requesting.
On the north side, I mean, that seems a little redundant. I'm just trying to think offhand, do we have other fueling stations along Whitestown Parkway that have canopy signage?
Typically, they are on the monument sign.
Yeah, I didn't think we had any other examples of that. I mean, I understand the thinking of the south side for people exiting the store or in the parking lot of the store. The north side seems a little redundant to the monument sign.
Well, I think a lot of that is basically kind of directed at the folks across Whitestown Parkway that are coming out because they may not see that monument sign because they're going to be looking at the end of it, right? So I think that's a large part of needing that on the north side of the canopy.
Question for staff, these being digital signs, I'm sure we have standards for lumens, and I'm assuming it's LED, correct?
Yes.
So LED aren't that bright, but this all complies with everything that we...
Correct. We do have standards in terms of timing, turnover, brightness, all of that, and we'll ensure that they
Auto
comply with
dimmers
that.
and so forth.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I do have a question. I have a question in reference to any type of traffic study that has been done for the area. I see here, of course, that, this was a tire shop, but you're going to get more traffic than the tire shop has. My concern is that this is going to be on Center Drive at Parkway, and I'm already seeing traffic queuing up at the light at Parkway and Whitestown Parkway. And I thought I heard you mention about a traffic circle. So what are the plans there from your knowledge?
Yeah, and I may actually let one of the engineers speak to that. But just in general, fuel trips, gas trips, people don't typically travel large distances to go and make that stop, right? They pick up a lot of what they call pass-by trips. So if you're driving down and you see that Kroger or whoever has got a good price on gas and you've got half a tank, you may stop there. Again, as I said, a large majority of their trips are associated with trips that are coming in anyway to the Kroger store. So it's a little bit different than even a standalone Circle K or whatever. There is no convenience store to bring people in for those types of items as well. I'm out of dog food, so I'm going to stop at the Meyer convenience store or whatever. There's nothing to bring folks in for that. But we have done a traffic impact study. We have been working with your town engineer on that to make sure that there is no impact from that.
And in terms of the actual kiosk, what's going to be sold there? Anything outside, like soft drinks or
Yeah, so
and so forth?
you can't keep propane in a building, right? So there's going to be a propane cage. There would also be an ice machine. And then what Kroger has gone to is they keep, there's no stacks of firewood. It's all contained now in containers, so to speak. The soft drinks are in like a cooler with a glass front, and the doors slide. There's one for drinks, there's one for snacks, and then there's one for automotive products like squisher fluid and oil and those kinds of things. Everything is under the canopy in that either adjacent to the kiosk or in that main strip between the kiosk and that fuel pump. And I believe we submitted some information to staff to verify we located where that display merchandise would be on our site plan, and then provided examples of what the cooler would look like and the bin that would hold the firewood. So cognizant that can be a hot issue, shall I say, for communities. So they've really tried to clean that up, keep it under the canopy, and keep it basically in containers. That also allows them at night then to close those off so that it's not a temptation for somebody to break into that. The things that are sold out of the kiosk would be cigarettes, vape stuff, lottery tickets, and I think that's about it. The kiosk is pretty small. There's not a lot of room for stuff.
And then my last question is, will this be a 24/7?
That I'm going to turn no. Okay, I'm getting a no. So each one's different. So I didn't know that for Whitestown, but no.
Thank you.
So the kiosk is not, customers don't go in.
No, sir.
They're all on the outside.
Yeah.
There's only one employee.
One associate is in the kiosk, and they're there when the fails to get you the receipt, or again if you need to prepay for your fuel, or if you want to buy a lottery ticket or something, or pay for merchandise, I guess that's in those containers.
One final question. Is it possible to still get fuel after hours as long as you have a card, debit card?
No, I don't. If it's not going to be a 24-hour facility, the answer to that is no, because typically then they have to do fire suppression up on the canopy roof and so forth. And so the answer is no to that here.
Thank you.
else before we go to the public hearing? There'll be opportunity afterwards as well. All right, I think we'll go to the public hearing now. I will open the public hearing at 6:55. I believe I have one person that has requested to speak. That's you. Ann McBride, that's you, right? So that's. You want to come up and
I could sing, but I'll just let you.
all right. Okay, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the board with regard to these items? Seeing no one jumping up and down and waving their hands. Anyone online?
No one online has requested to speak.
No one online. Okay. So I will close the public hearing at 6:56. Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board?
I apologize. You said 14 fuel pumps?
Yeah.
Come on back up.
Yeah, 14 dispensing locations,
Okay.
7 islands.
Okay.
So it'd be two on this side, 2 on this side, and then 1 in the middle in front of the kiosk.
And no fuel or no truck fuel, correct?
No, yeah, and that's part of the reason why we're asking for the reduction in the canopy height is we try to keep that lower so that it's very evident that this is not a truck, I don't want to say truck stop, a truck fueling opportunity. It does allow for RVs to come in, folks pulling boats, some small of those U-Haul, trucks that you have to fill before you take back. But a semi or anything like that can't get under the canopy. The tanker truck comes in to the south of where the kiosk and the fuel canopy is, and it comes in and it unloads the fuel then from the passenger side and then exits out that right in, right out. So that's the only large truck on the site.
It doesn't look like there's much room for it, but it reminds me there's going to be no overnight parking.
I'm sorry? No.
Is there going to be any overnight parking at this?
No,
Okay. It doesn't look like there's much room for
No,
on-site.
Kroger would frown
Just want to
on
make sure.
it. Yeah.
Something that comes to mind that I think we've done in the past when it comes to signage, whether it be monument signs, things like that, since this is not going to be a 24/7, 24-hour operation, are those canopy signs and the pricing signs, are those meant to stay on all night, or is that something that can be shut off, once basically it's closed? And that kind of also gives another indicator that the gas station is not open
Yeah,
yet.
I mean, the monument they would want to leave on. There you are.
Okay.
Gentleman says he can shut off the sign, so
Okay.
there you go.
And that is actually required by the ordinance
Okay.
Oh, it is.
to shut the signs down.
I thought it was, but I just wanted to clarify that too.
I have a random question. Since this was a gas station before, are there tanks that are still below that need to be dealt with prior? Or?
I do not know the answer to that, but I would suspect in the redevelopment of the Big O that they took care of all of that. And I would imagine Kroger has done some due diligence to determine that as well.
Yeah, they're good to go, so. And they do put in everything that complies with today's standards, the double wall tanks and, all of those requirements, so.
And there's no curb cut on White Sound Parkway. It's all coming from the south, from the other.
No, unless you'd like to give us one, in which case, yeah. No, absolutely not. Like I said, there's a right in, right out, which principally is for the tanker it comes in the full access, unloads the fuel, and then comes out the right in, right out. And then there's that shared access drive with Taco Bell, which we were obligated to continue because of the easement.
So our sign standards in our UDO are based on square footage of the face, maybe, or what's the? equation, basically.
Yeah, in terms of the fueling island canopy, it's just a flat square footage.
So the UDO sets out separately gas station canopies,
Yes,
signs.
correct.
Okay.
And it's a flat square footage, and then it cannot exceed above the face of the canopy.
And is this one extending above the face, or is this one flush with the face?
With the increased square footage, yes, it would.
It would.
Yes,
It won't exceed above the fuel canopy, though, the top of the canopy, I don't
the
believe.
top of the canopy.
So in this table, showing the quantity of signs, 2 signs, and then square footage, under the UDO is 12 square feet. The request is for 30.3. Is that per sign, or is that aggregate?
That's per sign. Each fuel pricer is 30.3 square feet, and then the 12 square foot sign you see is a small Kroger emblem, which would be at the other end of the fuel canopy.
And the building materials on the kiosk, I assume, are going to be something that's, and the pillars, I guess, will be complementary to the main building.
Yeah, they're going to be masonry, and the colors will be complementary to the store. All of the landscaping that's required is provided on the site. There is a waste receptacle, and it's going to be screened and landscaped per the city code, or town code, sorry.
Is this comparable to Chick-fil-A signs across the street in size?
All right, do we have any other questions or comments or discussion?
I guess I have a little reservation about the canopy signage, it's a lot of digital signage.
Are you concerned about the size or just the number of signs total?
I guess the number of signs and also the placement. I know we don't set precedents on this board, but we don't have others along Whitestown Parkway that have both monument sign and canopy signage.
Yeah, I'm always somewhat torn on signage between working with planning staff and being a consumer, right? And those two things can sometimes be in conflict with each other. As a consumer, I like to see lots of signs and lots of information. So when I'm traveling, I love seeing all the pole signs along the highway, so I know when a McDonald's is coming up or a Cracker Barrel is coming up. But where I live, I don't want to have pole signs, right? So it's always a conflict.
I would even say, like, when we travel, I use Nap
Well,
to look, or my wife does, so.
I do have a question for staff. Right now, the UDO says 12 square feet. Do we know the history behind that? Was that done because of a safety issue, or do we know the actual logic? I would hate to vote something bigger, and then there was the intent when this was first voted. And I know that may have been years ago, before my time and yours, but I was just wondering if you might know that.
it's a valid question.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I unfortunately do not know the history behind the sign ordinance.
Yeah, as I say, I don't know the specific 12 square feet other than typical signage on a canopy is usually a logo.
Okay,
Uh,
so that's typical, that's,
It's typical. Now, ours does not prevent you from putting, the pricing on there. Obviously, if it's to be legible, as Kroger's requesting, it needs to be larger. Good. Thank you.
Any further thoughts?
Another question.
Go ahead.
I'm curious if there would be an option to make the one on the backside smaller? If that would be an option? Because the only person you're advertising to are people at the grocery store, which is right there. So I'm curious why it needs to be that big.
Yeah, in order to be legible from the store parking lot, I'm just checking, it really does need to be that size because, you've got the case and it says unleaded and then it says
Yeah.
diesel. So it's not, the whole 30 square feet isn't the LED. And it's not an LED sign like that is going to scroll or whatever. I mean, right now it seems like fuel prices are changing more than they were. But I mean, typically it's a daily or every 2 days or something. So it's not any
Static sign.
Yeah, it's not any kind of flashing sign. So,
Is there no signage within the Kroger store itself, like when you check out and up on the wall? I mean, I know Costco, they do that.
yeah, no, there is not, yeah,
So the only information is this.
is that, right.
Are these made, like, individually, or are they provided? Is this something you can just go buy at a certain place? Or
Kroger has a sign company that's based in Nashville, Cummins, and they design the signs and design and then there actually would be constructed someplace here with a local sign company in Indianapolis, or, around.
So these could be made smaller.
I'm sorry, they
Could
could,
be made smaller, technically.
but they wouldn't necessarily be readable, is the issue. I mean, they could be made smaller, but you'd lose the purpose of them.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the signage on the backside, certainly. I mean, technically, it's being viewed from Zionsville at that point. My concern more would be the aesthetics, et cetera, from Whitestone Parkway and whether or not it,
Then my question would be a little slightly different than Shelby's. Did you forego the north side digital sign on the canopy and just have the south side facing the store?
I'd like to have both, but,
Well, I think you know which way I'm leaning right now.
yeah,
So,
I hear you. I mean, the board has to make that decision. Kroger feels that both of those signs are warranted and are necessary.
so it's both.
Again,
or-
people shop just on price,
So both or no, right? It's, okay. No, I mean, that's my question, is there a compromise?
I think what she said is if we decide and went ahead and said just on one side, they would accept that decision.
But please don't.
But it's not what they
I
want.
like my job
Right,
with
right.
Kroger.
Not like an all or nothing.
Yeah,
The backside's a lot bigger than the front side. The monument's 2.5 feet versus a 3.5.
I will tell you, representing Kroger for 30-odd years, that this is a scaled-down sign package on that fuel center. I mean, I know that's not of your concern, so to speak, but it is a scaled-down. This site has 3 frontages, right? So there would typically be more fuel pricers and a lot more signage on both on the kiosk, on the canopy, and so forth. And I'm not trying to persuade you. I'm just saying they have made an attempt to try to meet and address, your zoning code.
And the monument sign is where the existing monument sign is, correct?
Yes. But it'll be on a new base in a landscape bed and,
That one currently has a Tom Wood Toyota sign on it. Am I thinking of a different one?
that's a different sign.
That's right there on Whitestown Parkway.
It's on between, I believe that sign is between the Kroger store and the Taco Bell, if I'm not concerned. It's got a number of panels on it.
It sits on Center Drive.
Okay, but that sign, what's happening with that sign? It's just going to say Kroger,
That's a reface.
Yes.
and it's not. Yeah, okay.
It's not including fuel
So
prices,
the fuel
unless
prices
you
aren't on
think,
that, and the LED is not on that. Yeah.
unless you think it should be. And then we could add that to that, but I just,
I'm not an expert.
you don't ask, you don't get.
But just to be clear, Monument 2, I don't know if you had so Monument 2, which is on page, kind of called out on, be the second page of our handout. So that would be a Whitestown Parkway facing monument that's roughly about 8 feet tall, correct?
Yeah, is that the one with, I'm sorry, I didn't bring my book up. Is
And
that
that
the
would
one with the
have-
fuel pricers?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one that would, it's a new sign. It would be in the landscape bed on a masonry base, and that it's right there at the entryway.
So M2, if that's what you're looking at, Mr. Snowberger,
And
It's
there was
going-
a sign there.
is going to
Original.
replace, the existing monument sign that is there for Big O Tires.
Are there any, I don't think I saw any proposed conditions from staff. Or am I mistaken?
There were no conditions.
Any more questions or comments?
I don't have any.
All right, then, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that docket BZA 25-001 SE, a special exception for Kroger Fueling Center, is consistent with UDO 11.13 and satisfies all of the 7 findings of fact and is to be approved.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And that, to be clear, is the special exception for the use only.
Correct.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion to approve BZA 25-001-SE made by Mr. Snowberger, seconded by Mr. Akins. Any further discussion? If not, then we can have a roll call, please.
Mr. Snowberger,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Aye.
Mr. Kingshill,
Yes.
Ms. Haas,
Yes.
Mr. Akins.
Yes.
Let the records reflect a 5-0 vote.
All right, thank you. And then, so moving on now to the next one, which would be BZA 25-002-DSV. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that BZA 25-002 DSV a variance for the development standards for a Kroger Fueling Center is consistent with UDO 1115 and satisfies all suggested findings of fact, with the condition that I would like to see the digital portions of the pricing portions turned off during non-business hours.
Which is already in the ordinance, right?
It is.
Yeah, so,
I just want to make sure it's clear that
Yep.
we all.
okay, we'll leave that in the motion. Do we have a second? I'll second it. So we have a motion by Mr. Snowberger to approve BZA 25-002-DSV, second by myself. Pull the board, please.
Mr. Snowberger,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Nay.
Mr. Kingshill,
Yes.
Ms. Haas,
No.
Mr. Akins.
Yes.
Let the records reflect it passes 3-2.
Thank you. Moving on to the next one, which is BZA 25-003-DSV. Do we have a motion?
I will make a motion that docket BZA 25-003VA, a variance of development standards for Kroger Fueling Center, is consistent with UDO 11.15 and satisfies the three required findings of fact. This pertains to the size of the building. Be approved.
I'll second.
Thank you. So we've got a motion to approve by Mr. Snowberger, second by Mr. McGee. Pull the board, please.
Mr. Snowberger,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Aye.
Mr. Kingshill,
Yes.
Ms. Haas,
Yes.
Mr. Akins.
Yes.
Let the records reflect passes 5-0.
Thank you. And moving on to the last one, which is BZA 25-004-DSV. Do I hear a motion on that one?
I will make a motion that docket BZA 25-004VA, a variance for the development standards for Kroger Fueling Center, is consistent with UDO 11.15, satisfies the three required findings of fact, be approved. This pertains to the reduction in the minimum building height of the canopy.
I'll second.
Thank you. We've got a motion to approve by Mr. Snowberger, second by Mr. McGee. Please pull the board.
Mr. Snowberger,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Aye.
Mr. Kingshill,
Yes.
Ms. Haas,
Yes.
Mr. Akins.
Yes.
Let the records reflect it passes 5-0.
Thank you. And were those motions, this question for council, in terms of adopting findings of fact, was that good enough for?
Yeah, because you have findings, facts in the packet, and so they've been laid out, so I think that's appropriate. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, moving on to our next item, which is 6E, and that's BZA 25-005-VA, Aspen Creek Grill. Staff, give us an introduction, please.
Yes, BZA 25-005-VA, a development standards variance from UDO 7.10G, parking ratio for vehicles and bicycles. The request is to increase the parking maximum from 49 to 130. This is a 165% increase. What I'd like to do is draw the board's attention to the Unified Development Ordinance. This is section 7.10, parking ratios for bicycles. This is on page, I should remember these, page 4. Page 4. So based on our current standards, there is a maximum of 7 parking spots for 1,000 gross floor area of business. The proposed Aspen Creek Grill is 7,000 square feet. So if you divide that by the 1,000 max, right, you get 7 times 7, 49 parking spots. So that is the maximum parking that they would be allowed under the current ratio.
I want to stop you there real quick. I think there's maybe a typo in the staff report. It says maximum number of parking spaces is 7 per 100 gross floor area, which would make a difference.
Correct, yeah.
So it should be 1,000,
It
correct?
should be the 1,000 based on the chart above.
All
Yes.
right, thank you. Just want to be clear on that.
Yep, thank you. So that's a maximum of 49 parking spots. They're requesting 130, again, which would be a 165% increase. Now, we have had several cases in the past that have requested an increase in parking, and the board has instructed staff to look at our parking ratios, and we've done that. We've got some comparative communities here, and I'd like to go through those. So this is unofficial. We've just done a little bit of research. Nothing has been passed at this point in time. Just want to make that clear. But what we're seeing in comparative communities is either it's based on that gross floor area or it's based on the number of seats. So, for example, in Carmel, it is one space for every 2.5 patron seats. So if you use the Aspen Creek Grill scenario, that would give you 150 parking spaces. Now, keep in mind, they're asking for 130. Another comparison, Brownsburg is one space for every 4 seats. So that math breaks down to 63 parking spaces, slightly above Whitestown maximum, but not quite the 130 that they're requesting. The other community comparison is Noblesville, where they actually have an existing store, and that is one space per 50 square feet of floor area. And that breaks down to 140 parking spaces, so closer to what their request is. The other item I'd like to note is there are several UDOs that have a request. If you're going above the maximum number of parking spaces, it's an increase in landscaping. So, for example, the city of Shelbyville, if you increase the number of parking spaces by 130%, you have to increase the landscaping by 50%. So that's another way of looking at it. Again, this is just some of the research that we've done per the board's request, nothing official at this point in time. I would go back to the numbers that Aspen Creek Grill has presented. So 250 seats with the potential for a maximum of 50 employees on a shift at any given time. And if you're to do just a quick average, 250 seats, if you were to say that is one, right, so that's a 4-top table, right? And that is one car per table, right, which we know there's going to be 4 tops, 2 tops, there's going to be bar tops. So this is just an average, right? So that would be 63 parking spots plus the 50 shift employees would give you 113 parking spots. So staff believes that, or staff is recommending 150% increase to 122 parking spots with an increase in landscaping.
I'm sorry, with an increase in the landscaping?
With an increase in landscaping. That is our recommendation.
All right, thank you. Do we have a representative from Aspen Creek that would like to address?
Thank you for your time this evening, everyone. My name is Evan West. I am from 6217 North Temple Avenue, Indianapolis, Indiana. I am the site civil engineer for this project. Alan did a very good job describing what we're asking for. The 122 spaces would be fine by us. The landscaping, maybe a little bit more clarification on what kind of increase you're looking. Is that just all around, or specifically, are you looking for more shrubbery or?
So based on the current plan, what we would recommend in the reduction from 130 to 122, those spaces, to make those planting, part of the planting islands, and then the remainder could be on the periphery, the surrounding buffer area.
Understood. I believe our clients are a little concerned with tree coverage already blocking the view, so as long as there's something that we could reach out that isn't blocking off the view from Perryworth Road would be fine by us.
Yeah, and we can review that landscaping plan.
Okay. Other than that, I'm open for any questions as needed.
I think I'll open up the public hearing first, and then we'll see if anybody says anything, and then we'll come back to you after that.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so this item requires a public hearing, and I will open the public hearing at 7:26. I do not have any requests to speak. Do we have anything online?
No one online has requested to speak on this item.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience here tonight that would like to speak to us regarding this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing at 7:27. Okay, any questions or comments from the board? I guess I have a question for staff. This is part of the Anson project, right? Or
Correct.
in that, and the other restaurants, for instance, there's Harmony that appears to be right next door. How many spaces does Harmony have? Do we know?
I do not know.
95, you think?
I couldn't tell the gap in response.
Did you go count them? Good, very good. And there are other restaurants in Harmony, and there, yeah. You know, my usual concern is not wanting to see a sea of parking, but we already have a sea of parking. So there is that.
There's a hotel north, and there's Dick's in a large parking lot, catty corner to that, and I've never seen the Dick's Sporting Goods be busy.
No.
So do you guys have any kind of issue with like maybe staff parking over there?
As far as I'm aware, there is a parking agreement in place with the hotel. I'm not sure if there is one with the, is there one with the Dick's as well? No, there's not one with the Dick's. I don't
There's an
legally.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Sorry. I don't know if legally they could allow parking in the Dick's slot without some kind of parking agreement, which is not in place, but to the north of the hotel, there is such an agreement in place.
How many spots?
That one I'm not sure off the top of my head.
4?
Oh, 44.
44. Yeah, it makes a little more sense.
That makes a big difference. So, sorry, is that how many spots they have total, or that's how many they can use? Sorry, I don't know if I'm hearing everybody right.
Heather Belton with Aspen Creek. We currently utilize 150 to 160 at all of our locations that have the highest traffic. So we're taking those 44 into account. That's why we asked for the 120
Really?
to 130.
Okay.
At our Noblesville location, every single parking space is full on the weekends. We at times utilize overflow parking there. At our busiest times, we have 100 employees on site. So 160 is on the weekends is our required number.
So really, 130 plus 44. 130.
Yeah, it's pretty clear, obviously, that our UDO is lacking a little bit in this particular regard. And we have, you guys have been working on that, and hopefully we'll see something before the end of the year coming
Mid-year.
forward on an amendment, so that we don't see these requests every single month, every single meeting. This is like our third meeting in a row deciding on extra parking. So clearly there is not a sort of a industry standard within the planning community as to how to determine parking for restaurants, right? The different uses have different criteria in terms of how we come up with the numbers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Some UDOs fine-tune it from fast food or drive-through restaurants to sit-down restaurants.
Sure.
Again, some are based on square footage, some are based on number of seats.
And most have a minimum number of parking, not a maximum. Ours has both, minimum and maximum.
A minimum requirement and then no maximum.
Correct, is what probably the vast.
But these examples you've given us from nearby, these are maximums, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, Carmel and Brownsburg and Noblesville.
Yeah, I think more are moving to maximums, though.
Well, yes, it is definitely starting to go the opposite. Before, it was nobody provided, enough parking, and now it's, looking more on the other side.
There's something to be said about, a full parking lot and having a difficulty finding parking in terms of, the appeal for the, but
I will say I'm appreciative of staff for doing the extra legwork to kind of take a survey of the surrounding communities, because that's always, in my mind, that provides us some good opportunities to gauge what other people are doing and allow us to make an informed decision. And I think it's a conversation, obviously, for another time, but I think that gives us a good basis to kind of fine-tune some things from. That being said, I do like the recommendation of, kind of somewhat of a compromise, but also adding in some additional landscaping. And it would be, I understand this is completely different. It's a lot different than a fast food drive-up restaurant, because you're not going to have the number of people coming and sitting for an extended period of time where you would with a fast food place. So I do understand the need for additional parking.
Yeah, I would agree. I understand the need as well, and I appreciate looking at other municipalities. And I don't think the suggestion 122 is far off the mark of what has been asked. And I like the increase of landscaping by 50%. We already have a sea of parking over there, but we don't need to add to it. That, to me, is more appealing than increasing the landscaping by 50% to give you the extra parking spaces, if that's the direction we go.
yeah, I mean, I think the mitigating factor for you here is the location, right? It is right there, right next to the freeway. It's right next to Anson. It's within a bunch of, somewhat intense, retail uses that require parking. And if this were on Main Street in our legacy core, it would be a little bit different. But I don't see any harm in adding spaces here. It's just whatever we land on.
I would add one thing. I'm going to echo what Shelby said, too. I don't think I've ever seen that Dick's parking lot anywhere near to capacity, even at Christmas. So, I mean, if there's still a need after that, I think that's where you may need to have some discussions with some of your neighbors.
Hopefully some of your patrons will go to Dick's after they eat dinner so that we don't lose Dick's.
So if we were to possibly approve their recommendation of 122 plus the 44 that they have approval from the hotel. It gives 166 spots.
Yeah, and it sounds like petitioner is okay with that, correct? With the 122 spaces that we give you with the additional 44 from the hotel. And you have an agreement with the hotel that, is it based on time?
It's actually an easement that's been already recorded prior to us negotiating the property, so it is,
Oh.
easement is
So
recorded.
it's already there when you bought it, yeah,
Yes.
okay.
I personally would like to see it be less, but just because of how much parking is in that area. I know it would be potentially, I don't know if they're going to put a roundabout in here or, no, that's not a roundabout. I mean, it's literally right here.
Oh, you used to live right there, you said?
No, sorry. It's the parking lot that I'm thinking of is Sticks, which I think is right here.
Oh,
So,
So I will add that all of the parking is contained on site, and they're not constraining the site just for the parking. It fits in there, plus the square footage footprint of their building. It all fits in there quite nicely.
if we make a condition that there be some additional landscaping, how do we do that in a way that we can enforce it?
So staff will have to work with the engineering team to determine the amount, the quantity, right, and then the location. So if they're eliminating some parking spots, right, to plant a tree, right, that's one, and then we'll go from there based upon what the existing required landscaping is.
Okay, so we can make it conditioned on a new landscaping plan as negotiated with staff
Yes.
in the future.
Just a clarification on the landscaping is when you say the recommendation of 50% increase, is that, it's just more for my learning, is that surface area or is that, say, quantity of plantings, types of plantings? What does that, I guess, 50% entail?
So staff's recommendation would be 50% in quantity.
Okay.
But certainly the board is able to make a determination on that.
Okay.
And I suppose it could even be, a percentage in terms of size of plantings too. You put trees in that are at 2 inches or whatever, right? And you could make the earlier trees be bigger, a little bit bigger and more mature.
Yes.
And that's obviously the landscaping people would have to, consult on that. But that would be another option, would be to make, rather than more plants, make them more mature earlier so that the landscaping is more effective. That's one of my problems with, all sort of new construction. These new subdivisions come in and we get out these landscaping plans and we get these tiny little plants that aren't going to be anything for 10 years, right?
Yeah. And the UDO does have a section on preservation in terms of an exchange for preservation in terms of the quantity, so we could rely on that for what you're saying. So a bigger caliper planted tree could maybe equal, I'm just throwing out a number, 2
Right.
or 3 new trees.
Yeah, okay.
So there is some precedent in the UDO for that calculation.
I'm comfortable leaving it up to staff to negotiate with them on the increased landscaping, whichever way they see fit. Any other questions, comments?
How many spots do you have at the Noblesville location? Do you know how many spots you have at the Noblesville?
We have approximately 148.
For the record, she said 148 with some overflow. All right, well, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to the following, that the parking spaces will be limited to a total of 122, and to increase the landscaping by 50%, which will be negotiated by staff. The findings in the staff report and staff recommendations, the submitted findings of fact, and substantial compliance with the submitted site plans.
And this is BZA 25-005-VA.
Sorry, yes.
Second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion to approve with conditions made by Mr. McGee, second by Mr. Snowberger. Please poll the...
Mr. Snowberger,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Aye.
Mr. Kingshill,
Yes.
Ms. Haas,
Yes.
Mr. Akins.
Yes.
Let the record reflect it passes 5-0.
All right, thank you. Good luck. And that takes care of our new business. And is there any other business? Hearing none. Do we have any announcements?
Do just have one quick, and I have one. I don't know if Alan's got another one.
Might have one too.
Uh,
What yours is?
Just to let you know, we did fill our other plan administrator position. He actually just started this week. He had other engagement this evening, so he
You didn't throw him into the rolls right up the...
didn't throw him right to the wolves. No. So his name is Noah. So he'll be he's joined the team, and hopefully he'll be able to help us kind of get to some of these ordinance revisions and things that just not been able to do with current staffing. So just wanted to bring the board up to speed on that.
Great, thank you. Anything else?
I just want to bring to your attention, the next meeting is April 10th. This is a break from our regular schedule, but this is one that we changed based on school spring break schedules. So I just want to make sure everyone notes that it is not the first Thursday, but in fact the second Thursday.
So don't show up here that night.
I mean, you might be lonely.
Next month.
We have one item for next month already.
We do, okay.
Yes. And then the other item, which pertains to just a couple of the board members, the town would like to go away from using personal email accounts to town-sponsored email accounts. And so I have some directions for a few of you in terms of setting those up. So I will give those to you after the meeting.
Just what I need. Another email account.
We can help you get it set up on whatever device that, so that it still comes right to you, so you don't have to do anything special.
Okay, very good. Very exciting. Anything else for the good of the cause? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We don't need a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.